Yo guys, Superior David here. I hope you've all been enjoying all the early access Murder at Castle Nathria gameplay videos I've been dropping the past few days. If you haven't checked those out, definitely want to give those a peek, because for those who have watched those videos, y'all know that Murder at Castle Nathria is bringing with it some very powerful cards when it drops next week. Whether this expansion is going to be one, like Skullman's Academy, that was, generally revered because it brought with it like a lot of power, or United in Stormwind, which, is generally hated because it brought a lot of power. I think that remains to be seen. But either way, lots of powerful cards coming next week. So I thought today it would be fun to go over what I think are the most broken cards from Murder at Castle Nathria. And I guess there's like a general sort of ranking to this video, but don't get too lost in the weeds here, because all these cards seem very powerful in my eyes. But anyways, I guess with that, let's get into these broken cards. So first up for broken cards, we have the new priest minion, the Partner in Crime. Now this is a 4-mana 2/5 battle cry. Summon a copy of this minion at the end of your turn. It's a 4-mana 4/10, which is already just like lovely, lots of stats right there. But even if you can't land a buff on this the turn it comes down, you're still getting 2 bodies on the board that both have like a decent amount of health just on turn 4. Priest oftentimes just needs 1 minion to stick, and then it could snowball that 1 minion to victory. So you could just play Partner in Crime on turn 4, just let it duplicate itself normally. That's fine, because you could follow up with a buff and just destroy your opponent from there. Now, while this card totally scares me, it can really only see play in like a Bless or Wig style of Priest. So while it's got a lot of power in its pocket, it's not going to be all over the place. So for that reason, it's not going up like any higher on this list. Now, moving right along to our next broken card here, we've got the new Demon Hunter weapon, the Magnifying Glass. This is a 3-mana 2/2 weapon. After your hero attacks, draw until you have 3 cards. Magnifying Glass is the card to put Demon Hunter back on top in terms of efficient card draw. Like, sure, Demon Hunter's getting some like no hands synergy, which who knows if that's going to be good, but I feel like Demon Hunter on its own is just really good at emptying its hand already. And so I think this Magnifying Glaive card is going to be able to get like a ton of value in like most Demon Hunter decks, unless there's like a big Demon Hunter that takes form for whatever reason, but I don't really see that happening. Demon Hunter is a class that always scares me with its aggression and hand reload, and this Magnifying Glaive sort of just takes it to the next level for me. Very scary card. But who really cares what the Demon Hunters could dish out if you're playing this new mage spell that I think is totally broken, and that is the Solid Alibi. This is a 2-mana frost spell that reads, until your next turn, your hero can only take 1 damage at a time. Now, this isn't as good as Ice Block. This isn't as good as Time Out, but the damage mitigation that Solid Alibi provides is still very powerful. This is also like a sort of like a subtle buff to Rune of the Archmage. Now you could like just YOLO Hail Mary play your Rune of the Archmage if you're playing Big Spell Mage, and potentially cast a Solid Alibi to mitigate some damage on your face, and that could buy you another turn where you could potentially like stabilize by like playing like a Parrot to recast Rune, or play like any of the scammy cards at Big Spell Mage's disposal. So Solid Alibi is a powerful card on its own, again for the damage mitigation, and it gets really broken when you think of like, hey, Rune of the Archmage could just randomly cast this to scam games from your opponent. Totally ready for the Trollden highlights, by the way. Now, moving on to our first of many broken Warlock cards on this list, we've got the Lady Darkbane. This is a 5-mana 3/6 battle cry. Summon 2 2/1 shades. Each gains a death rattle to cast your last shadow spell. I didn't really think too much of this card in theory crafting, but upon reviewing it after the fact, this card actually seems like so busted. Like, yeah, everyone's first thought is to like combine this with like some of the curse cards, but I think there's even greater implications beyond that. You can play like a couple of the new shadow spells that we're getting in Murder at Castle Nathria, which they seem like pretty good casts to play on this card depending on how you build your deck. But you could also play like a card like Dark Alley Pact to just get some like giant minions down once these little shades die. I truly believe that the sky is the limit for Lady Darkbane. If she's not broken now, she's gonna eventually be broken, because I think the ability to just recast just a spell multiple times is just really good. Now, another card you'll want to keep an eye on till like the end of time, I think is going to be the Crazed Wraith. This is the new warrior minion, the 2-mana 1/4, has +2 attack and charge while damaged. So I think this card really speaks for itself. They're bringing charge back to standard, a mechanic that they rotated out, saying that,
hey, we created uninteractive experiences,
and that they sort of brought back with Mr. Smite, and then it continued to create uninteractive experiences, and Smite got nerfed, and now we got like an even cheaper charge minion. The only saving grace here is that like taunt is a mechanic, so maybe that will be enough to keep the Crazed Wretch from just smorking you down super fast, super hard, but I guess we'll find out in the next couple weeks as the meta shakes out. Now, this next card card I think people are generally sort of accepting is going to be pretty good, but I think good for the wrong reasons. And in my book, it's very broken, and that is the new Primordial Wave. This is the new 3-mana shaman spell that reads, transform enemy minions into ones that cost 1 less, and friendly minions into ones that cost 1 more. So this is basically like if Evolve and Devolve had a baby, this is it, Primordial Wave. So this card will see play in Evolve Shaman for sure, but I think Primordial Wave is just an all-around good shaman card that's going to see play in every shaman deck, because Devolve is really powerful. Being able to like deny death rattles, as well as just like minions with buffs, has always been good in Hearthstone. And now we basically have like Devolve with like an upside occasionally if you're like, if you have minions on the board as the shaman. It's going to be a very annoying card until it rotates, just because of that devolving effect. And then, you know, sometimes your opponent will get like a little bonus because they're evolving their own minions. Okay, so now we're getting into top 5 territory here. So we've got some heavy hitters of the Murder and Castle Nathria expansion, and we'll be starting the top 5 off with the Serrated Bone Spike. This is the 2-mana rogue spell. Deal 3 damage to a minion. If it dies, your next card this turn costs 2 less. Now, this card is pretty nutty just on its own, but it enables so much of the new stuff that Rogue is getting. You know, it enables the location, and it enables the new legendary Draka. But even beyond that, Serrated Bone Spike sort of functions as like a pseudo preparation for some of your combo minions. You're going to be able to get like cards like Chef Scabs or even the new Private Eye out on curve, which I feel like it would normally be pretty tough for Rogue to be able to combo on turn 4 like exactly, unless you're like on the coin or if you have a preparation in hand. And if you could combo this card with preparation, then you could potentially be cheating out cards like way earlier than you should be able to, like, you know, like other minions or even the Scabs hero cards. So while Serrated Bone Spike might not be, you know, like broken on its own, it allows you to do just all of the broken things at Rogue's disposal so much faster than the class has been traditionally able to. And for that reason, I think it's going to be very broken, and man, I'm just terrified of this card already. This next card is also more of like a support style card that stands to accelerate this class's strategies at like every step of the way, and that is the Widowbloom Seedsman. This new druid minion is a 4-mana 3/2. Battle cry is draw a nature spell and gain an empty mana crystal. This is stuff that like every druid deck is going to love to have. More ramping redundancy is going to allow ramp style druids to just more consistently execute their game plan. So, you know, if you liked Celestial Alignment Druid before, I think you're going to love it in Murder Castle Nathria, because it's going to be a lot more consistent now. All around, Widowbloom Seedsman will probably be the straw that breaks the camel's back and will result in something in like ramp Celestial Alignment Druid getting nerfed, because wow, this card is nuts. Now we have arrived at the top 3 most broken cards. Starting us off, we've got Impending Catastrophe, the new 2-mana Warlock Shadow spell. Draw a card, repeat for each imp you control. This card, I think, released and people were like,
yeah, it's gonna be pretty good.
Warlock was given like a whole bunch of like imp synergy, and like the aggressive stuff that I was trying out in theory crafting, definitely very broken in that deck. But then on top of that, because of you know, Wicked Shipment, which could potentially give you just like a full board of imps on its own, you could just run Impending Catastrophe in like a variety of Warlock decks. Maybe this even brings back everyone's favorite archetype quest, Warlock. You know, you complete the quest and then you play the Wicked Shipment with Impending Catastrophe and the Stealer of Souls to get a bunch of cards that you can play for health and then just damage with the quest reward from Warlock. So honestly, this card just has so many different applications because it is so cheap that I will be shocked if this card is not nerfed either like immediately or just somewhere down the road, because it is so efficient for what it does. And I, for one, welcome the arrival of our Warlock overlords in Murder at Castle Nathria. Well, what could possibly be more broken than a card that I think will be like nerfed almost immediately upon release? Well, how about a card that we've seen a similar iteration of in the past that's also proved to be quite broken and nerfed, I might add. And that is, of course, the new Kael'thas Sinstrider, the 6-mana 4/7, which reads, every third minion you play each turn costs 0. We saw with the original Kael'thas that like this ability on spells is pretty powerful, and in theory crafting, it seems like the effect on minions is almost as powerful, maybe slightly less powerful, but still very powerful, especially since Bran is currently in standard. So it seems like a lot of like the scammy things you're gonna be doing with Kael'thas is like you play Kael'thas, and then you play Bran, and then you play whatever like 8 to 10 drop minion that you're not supposed to be able to combo with Bran and do disgusting things. Kael'thas just seems like it's gonna be so broken, particularly in Druid, and that's due to Druid just having like a lot of like mana ramping and also mana cheating. So Kael'thas, good on his own, but Kael'thas in Druid, you could be popping off and doing like broken Kael'thas things just like way before you should be able to, and I will be absolutely shocked if new Kael'thas doesn't get the OG Kael'thas nerf treatment, where instead of the minion costing 0, it goes down to 1. But even then, you'll still be able to do all those broken combos with Bran, so who knows if that would even like stop this card if it ends up being like way too broken. I guess we'll just have to see when it releases next week. But again, for sure, this card will be powerful. I think it will also break the game considerably. So woo! So now here we are on the cusp of what I think will be the most broken card in all of Murder at Castle Nathria. If you made it this far, definitely make sure to like this video and subscribe because you're probably digging something I'm doing if you made it this far. But I guess, with that, without further ado, what do I think will be the most broken card in Murder at Castle Nathria? Well, I'm sorry for the debate because it's not going to be just one most broken card, but in fact, a whole bunch of broken cards, and those are the locations. So when I originally brainstormed this video, most of the list ended up being locations, and I figured since the locations all share, similar qualities I think make them powerful, that I would just put them up on the tippy top of the list at number 1, because generally I think they will be some of the most broken cards that you're going to be seeing in the new expansion. They're cheap, they're repeatable effects that don't require any extra mana to activate, and then on top of that, they're very hard to interact with. And I know some of you are thinking,
David, we have the tech card to destroy locations. We're gonna be safe.
and I'm here to tell you that that tech card actually sucks. It's a 4 mana 4/4 with a very narrow effect, and while that effect is powerful, being at 4 mana makes it very slow and very hard to get into every sort of deck. So while on paper it may seem like there's a way to interact with locations, the way you interact with them is actually bad. So all that being said, do you think locations are going to be super broken, or do you think any of the cards on this list are they going to be super broken, or am I just totally overreacting? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to see some of these locations in action, definitely check out some of the early access gameplay I have on the channel. And I guess, in the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, stay superior, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.
Dirt.